Hello and welcome. My name is Drew Didle, and this is the Listening Room podcast. It's episode 5 on the YouTube channel, and the first one that we are putting on Twitter or X. And I'm here today with TJ Finnerty, who I met through some organizing calls with the Kennedy campaign. And I was really compelled by his story working with his own mental health and recovery journey. So I invited him to come on and tell us a little bit more about his story. And TJ, glad to have you with me today. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Drew. Hi, everybody. I'm TJ Finnerty. You can call me Tim F. I'm a 12-stepper with over 37 years in the room. And so I call myself a senior with the responsibility to carry the message that I'm standing up for sacred substance use. Cannabis helped me lose 180 pounds and restore my sanity from getting lost in the mental health care system that pushed a lot of pills on me and turned me into a disabled loser from my family. And I'm trying to restore my life and find redemption. So I've been a cannabis advocate for the last 7 years, and we'll get more into that. But I'm also tied to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because I went to the same rehab as he did, and we'll get into that. And I'm looking forward to sharing my story with you and help you lose weight with weed if you use it properly.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, TJ. And I don't think I said in the introduction that I am a medical doctor trained in family medicine and working in a primary care clinic. But I've always had an interest in holistic and alternative health, things like lifestyle, exercise, nutrition, even meditation, social connection, all as parts of how we take care of ourselves. And so, part of the reason for doing this podcast is learning from other people who have explored some of these alternative and holistic modalities. And so, TJ, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background with the mental health system, kind of how you first got connected with the mental health care system and what that was like. And then in a little bit, we'll get into your slideshow and some of the, to help us kind of expand on your story and background.
Well, my sponsor's walking in the door now, of course.
I sponsor you? I didn't know that.
All right, so if he wants to join us, he can. But let me just tie into what Drew was talking about. I didn't lose the weight with cannabis to smoking pot sitting on the couch. What I did is I changed my behaviors. And what I did is I improved my diet, I improved my exercise, I improved my mindfulness. It increased my conscious contact with God, helped me with the 10th step and the 11th step profoundly. Some 27 years ago, I fell into the medical system for more forced recovery when I got a DUI after my mother died of lung cancer and my daughter was about to be born. And the doctor decided, well, you're one of those high IQ guys, and I think you're schizophrenic because you're using cannabis. And I had to agree to go on those medications because he wrote a letter to the judge whether I was complying or not. And unfortunately, they chemically castrated me. I would net it out. And I became a burden to the family and the subby hubby at-home dad instead of the hard-charging type A guy that I am. I'll let Richie in here. He wants to ham it up with us.
Welcome, Rich. We're just getting started with our recording and glad you're here. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Doc.
So I just want to share with everybody that, I know this is odd, but it's a long story, but let's just keep it as net as possible. What I found, when I'm stumbling into the light with the rest of you, I really don't know everything. I have an IQ of 144. I still think I'm dumb. That's fine. But I think when I was a 5-year-old, they thought I was odd. A lot like Elon Musk was seen as odd, and they put me on Ritalin to rein in my rapid thinking and my flight of ideas because I was just too chatty in school. So we'll get more into that. But for Drew's sake, I lost 180 pounds doing yoga, using a garden-oriented diet, getting off all those fast foods, getting off cold cuts, Basically, as we saying, computers, garbage in, garbage out. Same thing goes for humans. Um, the better you feed yourself, the better you're going to have a conscious contact with yourself or God or your gut. I like to call your gut the G string, the God string, because that it's also funny because it goes straight to your ass. So, but basically, I don't believe in free will. I believe in God's will, and here we are. And hopefully, we'll get to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because we're connected. And I want to do an amazing grace space race with the Musk brothers. So we'll get to that. Ask me another question. We can keep it short, nice and sharp here.
Yeah, you're doing great, TJ. So it sounds to me like part of your perspective over the years and your experience has been that there's a lot of promise to using cannabis or marijuana as part of a healthy lifestyle that for you has been
A blessing.
has created, has been part of your plan to taper off of psychiatric medicines that you had been prescribed.
Right. I did that. I was on Seroquel, Prozac, Wellbutrin, Lamictal, gabapentin, Vistarol, Ambien. And my experience with the psychiatric system was I even have my records. I'd be glad to show people that I had cannabis use disorder and a mood disorder. And here are some meds, and you need to take these meds, you'll go crazy. There was a lot of indoctrination. There was a lot of training. They sent me to an intensive outpatient center. And before you know it, I lost myself because I was basically cut off from my hard drive, so to speak. And that is my experience. So my doctor got colon cancer in 2014. He was a practicing psychiatrist in Summit. Dr. Karp, who's dead now, so I can't defame him. And I don't really think he was evil, but to be honest with you, it was the worst drug dealing experience of my life because the doctors were trained that anybody that's using cannabis is a kook or crazy or a criminal. So I think he felt entitled. First of all, he has an obligation to treat me. So he had to medicate me or he can get sued by the courts. So both doctors and the patients were put in a bad situation. So from the beginning, he had a pejorative idea that I was a nut job using cannabis. And that's basically what happened is the stigma stabbed me in the soul. So that's how Robert F. Kennedy's talking about how they're strip mining the middle class. I am a story of an upper middle class guy who used to own a nice house in Warren Township, New Jersey, 29 Crown Drive, and was a firefighter there. And because I turned my will and my life over to the care of doctors instead of what God planted, I lost it all. And I fell short of being a good father to my daughter and being a good husband to my ex-wife, who's a senior vice president of Goldman Sachs, an accomplished lady. And I became the disabled dad. So I'm reaching out to change this because it doesn't happen to anybody else. I've lost too many people in the 12-step recovery because I sponsor people from the VA hospital, Runnels Hospital, right across down the road. We've lost 3 people in the last few years. And so I decided to stand up and share my story, and there's been a lot of persecution since. I gained back 100 pounds of the 180 I lost because I don't look as good as I used to. So, but hey, here I am.
Yeah, so I just want to name one of the, I guess, elephants in the room, or the obvious issue with cannabis, especially in the past, was that it has been illegal both on a federal basis and in most states. I'm from Nebraska. I did my medical training in Nebraska where, it was illegal. And so, through my rotation, through my school and through my, my psychiatry rotations, my general medical rotations, we typically ask people about, as part of their social history, alcohol use, tobacco use, drug use, including marijuana. And yeah, I don't, I guess I'm thinking back to that time and as part of the psychiatry textbooks, as part of the clinical rotations, like marijuana is not in the medical paradigm, seen as having any positive use. And so I'm just contextualizing, kind of contextualizing that not only is it background is against the law, but it's also seen as not being helpful from the medical perspective. And I'm not here in this conversation today. I'm not my role is to kind of hear from you, who's had sort of had an experience that has challenged that. And so I appreciate you sharing, being here with us and sharing about what your experience with the plant has been. So why don't you take us back to maybe some of your first experience with using cannabis, if you can remember that story.
Well, my brother Tom became addicted to opioids when he was prescribed pain pills after getting his hand crushed while he was working his way through college. He became a roommate of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in Fair Oaks Rehab. I'll show you a picture about that later. He shot me with a .357 Magnum when I was 13 years old and framed me for it. And I had to go into high school to meet up with bullies who beat the crap out of me. Someone like a Joe Rogan with the black belt was an Ishin Kempo karate black belt, and he and his friend beat the hell out of me. And high school sucked. But my sister turned me on to cannabis around that time, and I did use it a little bit. But it was street weed. It really, I didn't have anything real positive to say other than that it helped me detach. My effective use of cannabis started in 2014 when I went to get medical cannabis. And I also had a lot of years in 12-step recovery. And I was also the top student at Seton Hall University for mental health counseling at the time, because I went to get a second master's because I thought I was getting gaslit by the mental health system. So I went to grad school to become a therapist to help myself and help my family. So I think all my education just came together when I started to use the medical cannabis. And when I used it, I felt the euphoria, and I also got back in touch with my inner self and the intelligence that the plant gave me. So I immediately started to use it to come off the antidepressants, the Seroquel, the sleep aids. And I had to do it pretty much under fire because nobody would help me. And therapists pulled away from me too, because as you said, in the DSM-5, says cannabis use disorder. It can cause brain problems. It can cause schizophrenia. It can cause mood disorders. So you've been misled in the medical, in my opinion. However, cannabis is a very complex substance. So if you're using street weed or something like that, you're not going to get the same effect that I got. I researched the strains, and I used one to help me lose weight and also overcome a lot of the traumas in my life. And so I'm an oddball. So,
Yeah.
you have to admit it, I'm an oddball. But hopefully I can help people use it with AI. This is Amazon Halo. And I used it to track my sleep, my activity level, my tone of voice, to find out if I was doing better or worse the next day after using cannabis. So that helped me zero in what works well for me.
Okay.
It was one of the tools I used.
Yeah. And I notice, Rich is here with us next to you, your roommate.
Mr. NASA. Right.
Yeah. Why don't you share with us how you connected with Rich?
Richie and I met in the rooms over at, Bobby, over at Christ Church, right, pretty close to Fair Oaks Hospital. And then Richie and I met in the rooms, and because I lost my license for 10 years for being 0.01 over the legal limit for alcohol, they pulled my license and ruined my life. Richie drove me to meetings and stuff. So we've become very good friends over the last 20 years.
And when you say
he's putting me up, otherwise I'd be homeless because I've been taking on big pharma in New Jersey. That's not a smart thing to do.
Yeah. So when you say the rooms, you're talking about the Alcoholics Anonymous rooms?
I wouldn't say, hey, no, I can't say that. 12-step recovery. But
Okay.
yes,
12 steps.
Alcoholics Alternatives. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rich, I just want to welcome you to the conversation. How are you today?
I'm tired.
Yeah, he probably wants to take a nap in a minute.
Yeah.
So as you probably know, and you remember, we recorded a week ago, and we did decide to put that interview on YouTube. And so it is available to the public now. And we are recording again with the intention of having a little bit of a tighter focus and putting it to Twitter this time. And so in a minute, TJ is going to share with us some of his slides about his efforts to promote his approach to mental health. And so anyways, I just wanted to welcome you here. And also, if you need to go rest, you're welcome to do that. But did you want to share anything with us and for our audience who's here on Twitter and on YouTube, kind of about your experiences with mental health and with cannabis?
Oh, mental health and cannabis. Well, I the one good thing that cannabis helped me do, and I said it before, was go through primal therapy, which is a very intense psychological technique. And the primal therapist tries to get you to remember painful things from your past. And when I smoked pot, these things would come up automatically in my mind. So primal therapy was very helpful to me because it got me to remember a lot of bad things from when I was very young. And it just brought up memories, the pot. And then the primal therapy helped me deal with those memories. So they worked very well together. But if I'm not doing primal therapy and I smoke pot, I get paranoid. I have that, I don't know how many other people get paranoid, but I get paranoid and I start to worry and I just get scared. So that's what pot does to me. Interestingly, when I did other drugs, such as narcotics, body drugs, we used to call them, psychedelics or head drugs, we called them, including pot is a head drug. But when I did the body drugs, I loved them. I was addicted to them. Alcohol, heroin, narcotics, speed, any kind of drug that,
Helps you forget yourself. You like.
yeah, it did.
My whole point is that cannabis helps you do your personal inventory and give you a better 11th step, which is improve your conscious contact with God. It also helps promote prayer and love and peace and community. And a lot of people, the reason why they relapse is they're tripping over trauma of their past. And a lot of stigma has gone to people who have suffered from trauma. They've been called the addictive personality, or if you admit that you have an alcohol problem, you should go crawl into the basement and pray and kind of hide. I think those people are heroes, and I don't want them to be white knuckling it when they can be having a white light experience. I realize that a lot of them are afraid of relapse because of those thoughts coming up. And right now, there's no social support to help people because our depression problem is a broken spirit problem, and as I see it. And there's no reason why we can't have these sacred substances that have been used for thousands of years to help our people get over chemical dependency, which is what alcohol is a concentrated chemical that you can't digest. And a lot of people will have a bad reaction to, especially if they have trauma, because what happens is it erupts and the worst of you comes out. And with cannabis, people can use something to have a more adult fun without getting too wrapped up. So even if you're not using it for recovery and you don't need it, don't use it. That's fine. But it doesn't make sense that they're throwing scones at the stoners in the rooms when they're all drinking coffee, energy drinks, and they go gambling and they're doing other things. They're not perfectly sober, and Bill W. advocated for psychedelic use, LSD, and I had a psychedelic experience on cannabis. It told me I was the second coming of Bill W., and here I am with Rich. We're sort of like Bill and Bob here, and we had Drew. So
Drew is Bob.
yeah, you're Dr. Drew. So hopefully we'll get on Joe Rogan's show and we'll carry the message to the masses that God loves them, that God planted the way to get over drugs at their feet, and that we got to stop tripping over it, and that we're powerless over prohibition. Our lives have become unmanageable. I have a resentment against Chuck Schumer for trying to work with Biden to blame the MAGA people for holding back cannabis reform. I'm going to call him out on it. And hey, Tim Dillon, have me on your show. Have me and Dr. Drew on your show. So I want to challenge the comedy commandos out there, because they're the ones that know how to change the way people think. And I have seniority over a lot of these people in the rooms. My Robert F. Kennedy has a few more years on me, and he looks like a stud, and his whole life is together. Mine's kind of falling apart. So I'm reaching out for help, and we'll see what God has to say about that. So,
Yeah. So, TJ, let's go ahead and take a look at those slides if you want
here we go.
to share a little bit more about some of the steps you've already taken and some of your plans that you have to help spread your message about the healing that you see as
Here we go, guys.
Cannabis.
Okay. Anybody want to get off Ozempic and do some OG instead? Basically, if anybody wants me to be their weight loss sponsor, and you're a rich celebrity in New Jersey or anywhere else in the world, you have me roll some joints for you. The people in the white coats in New Jersey are not very happy with me. Thank God for Drew. So I'm kind of afraid of the mobsters in New Jersey. So please get me out of here for a while. And I'd
So
like
this
to go back.
Yeah, so on the right, it says that's when you were on the psychiatric drugs, and then on the left is when you had gotten off of them. Is that right?
Yes, the fellow who's on the right, the fat guy, was 333 pounds, and I was also the smartest guy in my grad school for mental health counseling. They thought I had great potential, and but I was a psychiatric sucker. And this is me collecting $5,500 a month in permanent alimony award, which I've surrendered to brag about on Joe Rogan, because it's not right that my ex-wife has to pay my way for me falling into a pill trap. So that was me in an apartment that she paid for. What?
So sorry to interrupt, TJ, but the alimony. So you were getting alimony from your ex-wife,
Yes,
related to the fact that you were disabled due to mental illness. Is that right?
and divorced and disabled, and telling her to stop drinking and all that shit. And
then
Mr. Disabled subby hubby was trying to 12-step his wife, and she said, "Get the hell out." And I did. And yeah, my whole life's gone to hell.
And you said you declined that alimony sort of as a point of pride so that you could share it with the podcasters. Is that right?
That's damn right. That's what this is all about. I'm the guy who got shot in the ass. So I had two assholes we can brag about. And then I'll take out my false teeth to complain about Ritalin. And then I'll also brag about the fact I threw away an alimony award that was permanent for $5,500 a month. And I did that as my own lawyer in divorce court. I negotiated a settlement after 15 years in court, and we both went bankrupt. So I want to try to get a refund and pay back my ex-wife all the alimony I got paid, and restore both of our financial well-being, and save my daughter and my ex-wife from the hell I've been walking through. Now, here's me. I was on 12 pills. They thought I needed Ritalin. They thought I needed Seroquel. They thought I needed Prozac, Wellbutrin, Lamictal, gabapentin. Oh, God, it was ridiculous. And then me on the right, here I am in the YMCA before they called the cops on me to throw me out for doing this little stunt. This is the way I used to look on my passport with fake hair. And there's some other people out there with fake hair. So, I'm going bald. Let's make America great again. And Chuck Schumer, the MAGA people are not holding back cannabis reform. You just got done getting caught with talking to Joe Biden, throwing us under the bus until those donors pay you. Bullshit. Let it go. This is my mother. The lady right here was my mom. She worked for Ciba-Geigy Pharmaceuticals. At the age of 5, they told her to put me on Ritalin or she'd lose her job as a secretary. And she did. And I became a white rat for Ritalin. There's me in the middle there between my sister, Mary, and my brother, Tom, when I was a little boy, nice and happy. This is me around the age where I got shot with the 357 Magnum. I was the smartest kid in school, 144 IQ. And the kids really just, I was the butt of all jokes going into high school when I had to share that I shot myself instead of my brother telling the truth that my brother shot me. So
we don't
I've
go
invented
into detail there, TJ, but
too much
was it
detail.
an accident or was he upset with you? Or was it intentional or what's the?
It was more of an Alec Baldwin kind of thing. It was here, all right, don't ever do this. And he points the gun at me and goes bang, goes off. My brother didn't like me much though, because he was jealous, but I don't think he shot me out of malice. It was a mistake. What was really ugly though is that he framed me for it, telling me that he would go to prison and he wouldn't be able to protect me from my father. You'll see a picture of my father in a minute. But you're talking to a guy, I've had a 44 Magnum in my mouth. I was thinking about killing myself one time. So I think the 420 MAGA is it's a heat gun that heats up cannabis.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, TJ, but it's a lot. It's a lot. So let's just take a quick pause.
Okay. Pause.
You know, from one, experience as a kid, unfortunately, to be shot, and that's an accident. That's a very intense experience. And then you describe what it was like for you at school to have to hide the truth about that, and that being another kind of trauma that you experienced. And then you kind of
no one to talk to about it either.
no one to talk to about it, kind of being, these kind of formative experiences that go into your adult psychology as memories. And then you said, at times dealing with suicidal thinking, including, to the point of having a gun in your mouth. Is that what you said?
Yes, a Smith & Wesson Model 2944 Magnum, just like the Dirty Harry. I had it in my mouth when I was living in Warren.
And what do you attribute, what kept you here on this earth, would you say, TJ?
God. Yeah, God. I didn't want to blow my head off in front of my daughter to find me with my head blown off either. So that would be the answer on that. So now I shoot myself in the head with a 420 MAGA. That is a bag you fill up with cannabis flower pollen at 380 degrees, and then you suck on it like an anxiety bag. And I hope to help people with therapy on that. You breathe in and out of the anxiety bag, and then you do some therapy. And I think the number one way we can do that is to use our green thumbs, that anybody should be able to grow their own cannabis because it is a sacred plant, and this is America. This is my license plate. I would like to put it on a Cybertruck, and hopefully Elon Musk will donate me a bulletproof Cybertruck so I can do a podcast in New Jersey bullet free. This is me at the church down the street. This is what I looked like when I started my cannabis reform movement, and now I look a little different. me testifying in Muhlenberg College for reform. This is a nun from 12-step recovery who drank Listerine because she couldn't get alcohol in the convent. I helped her die in an assisted living home. I gave her cannabis cookies as the last sacrament. This is on April 20th, 20. This is me at the homeless shelter in New Jersey being rejected because they won't take cannabis patients, even though I have a card. This is me in my awards.
God, you're skinny.
I was real skinny, right? Look at that. I was looking great.
You're too skinny.
Yeah, but they called me a sinner instead of a winner for losing 180 pounds. That's the problem, is I was sharing my story with church elders and doctors, and they all thought, oh, you must be a nut job. So, but here I am at another church, the Episcopal Church in Pennsylvania, in Eastern Pennsylvania. I was reaching out to my billionaire church, and that was suppressed. This is my old house, 29 Crown Drive, Warren Township. I think I did pretty good as a kid with a gunshot wound, going to school, working my way through school, going to Rutgers University for a master's in HR and then another graduate degree. I used to be a workaholic type, and my ex-wife, senior VP. So we did buy this house, but in a lot of ways, I was a disabled dad there. This is mom. Mom was a battered woman. Her name is Charlotte Finnerty. She used to work at Ciba-Geigy Pharmaceuticals. My father started beating her when she was pregnant with me, probably before that. This is dad. Now, Tom Finnerty. He was a World War II vet with brain damage. Do you see these dents in his head up here? These are holes that they drilled in his skull to let the blood out. Dad was an extremely violent alcoholic. He used to be a carpenter at Bell Labs, and he used to carry a hammer around and threaten to kill us anytime we acted out. So my brother was the guy who kind of protected us in the house, and guns were a big thing in our house. That we kept Dad under control with guns, which is kind of weird. But that's my brother Tom, who was supposedly Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s rehab roommate in Fair Oaks. Tom told me that he met Robert F. Kennedy and shared my story, and Robert laughed at him for shooting me. I doubt that's true. My brother, I think, was a half brother. I think my mother slept with a doctor at Ciba-Geigy, and that's the way it is. That's the chair I was shot in. That's my brother Tom sitting in the chair with my dog Gadget. I was just sitting in the chair, and I got shot in the upper right thigh. It came out my butt cheek. This is the green thumbs up to end the mass shooting crisis. We give cannabis freedom. In my opinion, prohibition is a pill trap problem. This is me on the right with pills, me on the left just with cannabis, no other drugs. I don't even take aspirin. I was gluten-free. Rich, don't talk in here, please. Gluten-free, sugar-free, caffeine-free, all drug-free. And this is why I was working for a billionaire in Mendham. This is my opinion on prohibition, what God would say. I was looking pretty good there. This is me in Trenton, advocating for reform, wearing a flag, looking pretty trim. This is me with Super Bowl hero. I think his name's Kylan Jenkins. I'm sorry, I'm not much of a celebrity hound. The YMCA again, before they called the cops on me for sharing my story. This is the way I used to look. This is the day that I told my billionaire boss that Percocet might kill him because he asked me when he was prescribed, and I took a picture here just because he got me into documenting everything. But that was the day, that was on July 4th, my mother's birthday, which is Independence Day. So I think that's part of the reason why God's called me to be an advocate. This is the poor guy wearing a neck brace. He had a horrible neck condition. and he was suffering a lot. And when he asked me if opioids could hurt him, I told him my story. And Mr. K and I talked about cannabis for helping veterans for about 3 months before a big pharma exec and he and I all met up doing a political thing for him. And the big pharma guy told him to get rid of me. So they did. And I understand Mr. K was too frail to really get into a fight, but he kind of wanted to, because I think he was a good man. This is me doing a little video to Joe Rogan because he talked about gestures in his psychedelic journey. So I'd be sucking up to that. And this is the Green Thumbs Up Award I want to give to the Nobel Prize winner that gives back people's green thumbs. This is you want to try to play this video here of challenging it? Let's try it.
Sure.
I'm trying to play it. I don't think it's going to let me play it. Next time we'll do it. I'll share it separately. Now, I'm making a joke about Amber's turd in a wine bottle here because poor Johnny Depp and Elon Musk suffered with Amber's wine drinking. So this is kind of funny because my ex-wife, I think, drinks too much wine. And I kind of went through the same experience with you guys. So, gee, Johnny Depp, maybe you can hire me to be one of your joint rollers. Or Elon Musk, I'd like to do a podcast on X to help all the Amber turds out there bloom to beautiful women instead of the bitches they can be when they're riding a wine bottle. So that's just a joke. I own Bud Light, and that is what I'm offering the comedy commandos out there. I'm offering Joe Rogan, Mike Tyson, anybody else who wants to defeat alcoholism. We can do a Bud Light alternative drink like the one I used to lose 180 pounds and to increase performance. That's my brother. This is the one that Robert F. Kennedy might recognize my brother because he was probably smoking the pipe, being a snotty little guy at Fair Oaks on the porch at the rehab where everybody used to go smoke. This is me at the Y again, looking pretty fit. This is me advocating with the Coalition of Medical Marijuana. This interview was cut off by the media and the tape disappeared. It seemed to happen the same time I wrote a letter to the K family telling them about my efforts to legalize cannabis, and they don't want to be drawn into it, which I understand because it could smear their name, but I still believe in my heart that God put me in his employ to do the same thing that I did with John, the CEO of IBM, by escalating the cannabis corruption case and telling him the truth. So I was trying to speak truth to power the same way I did with the CEO of IBM when I closed Fair Oaks. Unfortunately, Big Pharma got in the middle of it, and I've been suppressed ever since. This is the old chemically castrated guy that, my ex-wife had to deal with. And then I'm trying to be her hero, and they won't let me be her hero. This is NBC News. I testified in front of them and they killed the tape. They won't show it on the news. This is me ending up in the homeless shelter. This is the food bank in New Jersey because they can't afford $500 an ounce for cannabis, especially after 27 years of disability on psychiatric meds and then coming back on cannabis. It's a very hard sell to employers. This is what I want to say to the 12 steppers. Think, change your thinking. Cannabis helps you change your mind. And maybe you want to change your mind about sacred substance use and 12-step recovery because they give spiritual awakenings. And I want to free our higher power. And I'm not saying that cannabis is God. I'm saying that cannabis was planted by God to serve God, overcoming dependency on people like Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden. And this is my challenge. Dare say no to thugs. Let our people grow. Yeah, I kind of look like Moses. Maybe I was burning some bush and maybe that's where that idea came from. But maybe that's where Moses got the idea too. So I see the fact that we have a lot of pharmaceutical slaves and I want to free the slaves. This is me at Rutgers University trying to rally up support from my old professors who all shunned me and said, no, we're not joining in your fight. Get lost. Oh, yeah, let's go back. By the way, everybody at Rutgers, would you please help boost this and pass on the message? And Kean University, I'm a graduate from there, and I'm a graduate from Seton Hall University. All three schools in New Jersey, please boost this message. Pass it on. And cannabis cares for cocktail suckers. That's basically it. We have a turd there. I don't think anybody should be drinking alcohol. I'm highly trained in addiction counseling. And I told Patrick Kennedy, too, who censored my testimony, and I have a resentment against that. So I'd like to have a chat with Patrick and Robert one day and carry divine intervention to them. Oh my God, keep away from, this is what Drew's first input is. This is how you're trained. Keep away from that dangerous drug. So unfortunately, that is the medical model. Because it does replace the pills that you make a lot of money with. Joe Rogan, you're the ultimate flower champ. And that's why I'm aiming for you, because you're the only one that would give me a long form interview and you can cut through the bullshit and we can carry the message that God loves people, that we're here to help people, and we want to trust God, clean house, and help others. And I know damn well that they're pushing a lot of prescription drugs on people that are considered bipolar or ADHD and whatever. And I think that self-reliance, and there's nothing wrong with self-medication. We're allowed to use it. This is the award I won from IBM after the CEO of IBM put me in a headquarters position running the international networking project management for the IBM information network worldwide. I did an organizational change with the New York City public school systems because I was an advanced student at Rutgers, and I'm well-versed in organizational change, and I know how hard it is to get people to change. I did an outstanding job and won an award. This is Kappa Delta Pi Award, Beta Gamma Sigma. I won awards in business, counseling as well. Seton Hall University, Chi Sigma Iota Award. That's when I was 333 pounds on 12 meds. Can you imagine how smart I am on one flower? This is John Fetterman and me. I was testifying for cannabis reform. John Fetterman has stonewalled me ever since. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's amazing how often stonewalling is a problem. I'm not going to really share this video. This is a video in front of my billionaire's athletic center in Easton, Pennsylvania, at Lafayette College. And I'd like to challenge Donald Trump to the cannabis apprentice, because I am an HR expert sent from God to promote a greener, leaner workforce. Let's promote greatness on demand. We use cannabis instead of the chemicals that are corroding our society. Let's stop suicide. This is me at the American Foundation for Suicide March, where I was censored as well. There's a letter to the K family. I won't share it that much. Here's the whole point here. This is a performer's pill trap. The cannabis urine test has pushed a lot of people into a pill trap that American businesses have to pay for. And you have a workforce that is jacked up either on Adderall, drinking too much alcohol, they're on antidepressants, they're on antipsychotics, they're on Valiums, and they're all allowed to go to work, but you're not allowed to go to work on a plan. This is completely ridiculous. So on the left there, you have a nice muscular guy like from the UFC, and on the right, this is what happens when you go through the mental health system in America. This is me going to the church, the Episcopal Church for the K family. I went to the head of the church, shared my story, and he censored me. And I ended up in a homeless situation. Here I am in front of Safe Harbor in Easton, Pennsylvania, the homeless shelter that rejected me only because I used cannabis, even though I had a medical card from Pennsylvania, because it complicates their insurance and they're federally funded. So I would just confuse the patients. There's my house again. I've don't live there anymore. This is what can happen for you if you use cannabis in a disciplined, spiritual way, instead of just blowing your head off with the way that the cannabis industry is promoting it at the moment. And I want to promote job hire, greatness on demand. And that's my letter to Senator Steve Sweeney, the former president of the Senate in New Jersey, requesting our green thumbs be returned. The voters in New Jersey, the Garden State, should be able to grow their own cannabis. I don't understand why we had to pay $500 an ounce. I think that's a little gangster. So yeah, that's why I sent the green thumb. What happened was he did not reply to the letter. Matter of fact, most of these people don't reply to your letter. Chuck Schumer didn't reply to my letter. Cory Booker, Phil Murphy, John Fetterman, even the Kennedy campaign is shunning me a little bit so far. I hope I'll break through one day. But I want our green thumbs back. Bud Mike, the alcoholic alternative, that could be Mike Tyson's or Joe Rogan's, and I can be their spokesperson. And Elon, why don't you think about a bong instead of a brew or whiskey? So Amber Turd, there's you sitting there to kind of bring out the skull in people, evil. So I think alcohol is probably one of the greatest contributors to evil in America. It also promotes a warmonger attitude. I think we could reduce a lot of violence and crime. And remember, a patient cures, a customer lost. Now, that's not so bad for someone like Drew, who's trying to help a lot of poor people, but for somebody who has to pay back their student loans and stuff, there is a financial incentive to keep somebody in the sick mode. And unfortunately, that seems to be my experience with the medical system, that they captured me, they controlled me, and unfortunately, they didn't care how much they were hurting me. They just kept changing the meds every couple of months. Oh, we'll find the right med. We'll find the right med. It was a drug dealing experience. And I think that's it for that.
TJ, thank you. So
Welcome.
yeah, it's very interesting, especially to see some of those pictures, the before and after, having gone through a transformation yourself. And, I think that you provide, your own history, your own experience. And then, I think there's two parts. One is what it's been like for you as at some points a patient, and at another points advocating for yourself in your own way. And then the second part of your story has been about your efforts to spread the word. And it sounds like in so many ways that it's been really an uphill battle or difficult. You faced a lot of roadblocks, or as you said, stonewalling. And so
I'm facing a lot of stigma. Even the good Christians they're cold shouldering me. I sent an email off to the pastor of the church up the street a couple of years ago when I was looking thin, saying I want to be the Martin Luther King of cannabis reform because it has led to a lot of racial unrest. It was a way to undermine the left and the civil rights of Americans. And I feel obliged as a 12-stepper to carry the 12-step message that God provided an easier, softer way to recovery. And that's my obligation. So a patient cures, a customer lost to you, but a person saved is a professional at work for Elon Musk and for all the other hard driving bosses out there. So I think I can speak to that from an employment side, an emotional side, a 12-step side, and we can all recover using cannabis and fungi as opposed to the pharmaceuticals that are fouling up our people. Not all pharmaceuticals are bad, and I don't want to be saying that because it's dangerous. It's extremely hard to come off psychiatric drugs. I almost killed myself multiple times. But it is my experience that these drugs cause more suicidal ideation, more homicidal ideation. It cut me off from my real feelings, so I couldn't really be assertive. It was a way to sedate me and control me. It was not a way to cure me. So I think cannabis is a good way to help get over your traumas. And I want to stand up for buying flowers for people instead of pharmaceuticals to help them get over drinking, to find grace overcoming depression, to find grace overcoming dependency on people like Chuck Schumer who are throwing us under the bus right now. So I'd like to hire humans and fire addictions. That is what job hire is all about.
Great. Yeah. So it's very interesting to hear about your experiences and some of your ideas for how to move this work forward. I think
Let's
it's
make sure
important-
that we call out the comedians, by the way, the
Yeah.
list.
Let me just interrupt for a moment. And there's an element because I do work as a medical professional, and I think of potentially people hearing this message, and I especially want to acknowledge the difficulty of dealing with mental health challenges in anyone's experience, and the importance of seeking qualified help. In our interview today, we're not offering medical advice to the public, and I'm not working as a doctor for TJ. We are for
Right.
informational and educational purposes having a discussion about his experiences,
Yeah, let me be clear about this. I'm a minister. I'm offering spiritual advice. That's all I'm offering. And I'm offering, cannabis coaching, so to speak. But I have a chip on my shoulder that I want to share. And I want the 12-step community to chip in and the comedy commandos to rise up and to help raise funds to protect Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he's my pick for a more sober future and to challenge the deep state of denial that we're all in. So that is my goal.
I think there's something interesting about thinking of the comedians, the role of comedians in our culture. And I also think about music, I think there's sort of an association, or maybe it's a stereotype of
The creative mind is the one that's been harmed the most.
The creative class having more familiarity, or I don't know if that's the right word.
That's why I'm a headhunter. I'm a recruiter. I know who to go for. And I think the creative community are the ones that are going to stand up and help out, because that's what they do. They love people and they want love. So yeah, I'm the same kind of person. So I'm going to shoot myself with the 420 mag on the head real quick, if you don't mind. As we reach out to the comedy commandos, can I share my screen to share one more thing, or you want to say something, sir, before I shoot myself?
When you say shoot yourself, you're saying you're going to take
No, it's just a 420 maggot. It's flowers. I'm not going to shoot myself with a real gun. We don't want real guns. We don't want to take away people's guns, but we want to give them this 420 maggot.
This is a
So that they
non-violent.
stop using guns on people, because a lot of, as Robert F. Kennedy said, a lot of these mass shooters are on meds. So with Doug Benson, Joe Rogan, Tommy Chung, Sarah Silverman, Reggie Watts, Margaret Cho, Seth Rogen, Jesse Handler, James Belushi, Dave Chappelle, Mike Tyson, Jordan Peterson, Russell Brand. I have seniority on you. Would you please have us on your show? And I know you don't do pot and stuff, but you're meditating all day. So come on. What the heck? We're talking about a plant. So hopefully I want to reach out to all these comedians. Hey, Cheryl Hines is a comedian, but I don't think she does weed. But that's who I want to reach out to, because they're the ones that are going to raise the funds for a spiritual Secret Service protection service for Robert F. Kennedy. And maybe they can protect me too before I get killed in New Jersey for undermining the cannabis cause out here.
Yeah.
But
So it's interesting,
Well,
I don't know, I don't have any relationships with any of the celebrities.
no, you don't, not yet.
But I could imagine that your story of using cannabis and recovery from being on multiple psychiatric medicines being a compelling story that somebody on that list might be interested to know about. And
I hope so, because it's been narcissistic abuse, this outlawing cannabis, not letting people study it, not letting doctors know what the good news is. That is a form of narcissistic abuse. And all of America is suffering from that. So we can mend 1,000,000 minds in a year if we get me on the show. And another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask people to boycott alcohol until cannabis is legalized, because we want to be able to enjoy the flowers while you're drinking your booze. Why do people have to like avoid social contact or whatever? You know, with cannabis, you can't even use it in public. But right now we can do a Kennedy event and I can serve beer and wine, but I can't serve my cannabis cookies to help people lose weight or get over drugs. It's a ridiculous problem. So as an HR person, I want to escalate this like I did with the chairman of the board of IBM to the top comedy clowns that are out there. They're all sacred clowns like me. And hopefully the luck of the Irish will shine upon me and somebody will actually boost me instead of stonewall me. Quite frankly, I've been stonewalled by just about everything. I'm surprised at how deep this stone wall is. The castle walls are very tall. As Robert F. Kennedy was saying, they're out there drinking wine and having a party back there on Epstein Island as we're all suffering out here. And I love God. And I want, like Tim Dillon said, they love Satan. Let's challenge everybody. Do we trust God? Are we willing to clean house? And are we really going to help others? Are we going to do the bullshit we've been doing and be warmongers in America and the whole planet? We have an opportunity to use AI to spread abundance across the world. There's really no reason to be greedy anymore. And that's what Grace X is all about, to cross out the greed. AI will lead to abundance for everybody. We're all rich. In this country, even me, the poor guy who can't even afford the weed, I'm doing much better than the average human on the planet. So I feel an obligation to stand up, and the gangsters kill me, I'll go off with God. And I kind of expect a nuclear apocalypse anyway, so I don't mind dying early for that. I don't want to be around for the damn apocalypse anyway. As Elon Musk said, death will probably come as a relief. So, hey, I might as well make my jokes and make my pitches now, right? So
TJ, it's really been interesting to hear your story today. I'm glad that we've made time for this interview. We're gonna
Good.
put it on Twitter. We'll put it on YouTube, and maybe as a few people hear your story, I know this isn't Joe Rogan with his millions of listeners, but maybe we get a few.
We'll get there. We'll
one
get there.
step at a time. If you're appreciating this story, go ahead and leave a comment below. I'm sure TJ or myself would be happy to hear from you. And before we wrap up, do you have any other ideas about next steps or anything else you want to share with the audience before we close for today?
Well, yeah, I'd like the people in the 12-step community to pass it on, to chip in, to help support. I would like a little financial support and some love from the 12-step community, because I've been kicked out of the rooms in many ways. And the churches are shunning me. I would like some love from them too, because I'm standing up for God's plant. His will is planted. And I think we've all been misled by people who have maligned a lot of people who can't. Marijuana, it's called cannabis, not marijuana. And cannabis can cure a lot of conditions: epilepsy, your sleep problems, your anxiety problems, your pain problems, a lot safer than a lot of the side effects that I suffered with. So hopefully plant medicines will help people have more sex instead of the antidepressant problems we're having out there. I suspect that the gender dysphoria was caused by antidepressants. I turned into a subby hubby, and now I want to be the alpha male I used to be. So I want to challenge Joe Rogan to have me on his show and help me lose 100 pounds under his training. I'll be glad to go back on my old diet, and I'll give you a cut of Bud Light, and we can have some fun with Bud Light, So Aubrey Marcus, any other comedian out there that's interested in helping out the 12-step community, and you can fund freedom for your fans and let your fans have some fun at your concerts. So I'd like you to do comedy shows to raise funds for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and have me on your show, or have me over at your house. Maybe Johnny Depp and I can sit there. And I'll be glad to work for Dave Chappelle, because the white folk out here are not treating me very well. So if you guys want me to share Mr. K's name, because that's funny, I will, because I have freedom of speech, and I will be glad to do that because they're telling me I can't share my story. And there's no way to come out of this hole unless I can share my truth and let the truth set me free. So I am reaching out to the doctors who feel a little guilty about opioid addictions. The Sackler family had this message. They taught everybody to slam the addicts, to blame the addicts. And it's not the addict's fault. It's this substance fault. People don't abuse drugs. Drugs abuse people. And the same thing goes for alcohol. People don't abuse alcohol. It abuses them. And too many people who have suffered trauma are not being treated with love and respect and acceptance, because a lot of people have a very short attention span because they haven't gone through the kind of stuff I went through as a kid. And I just want to buy flowers for all the lovely women out there and get some dates, maybe like, hey, Pete Davidson did all right. He's not a great looking guy. So I'll make some jokes and hopefully I'll get a date. Yeah, I haven't had a date in 10 years either. So I've kind of gone through the hero's journey, the shaman's journey. I can help a lot of people, and I'll start off helping celebrities for free. We'll sell the 420 MAGA, we'll sell Bud Might and Grace X. It can be a Kimball Musk kind of project where we use psychedelics, and we can franchise a new rehab system where we use plant medicines, good diet, good healthy foods, good loving support, spiritual, yoga, cold plunges, saunas, exercise, and then we can have a greener, leaner workforce, because cannabis reveals who you are. It doesn't turn you into a couch potato. Not everybody, but what it does show you who's a kind of a couch potato and who's a high performer. You look at Joe Rogan, he's smoking mass media on his grass media. So that's kind of the story here. God loves you. I love you. I'd like to find some love myself, and help me out of the foxhole. I'm here in Jersey. It's kind of rough.
Well, TJ,
There you go.
thanks again for coming on to the listening room. And we will see how this unfolds. And from my impression, partly because of the Kennedy campaign, but also maybe it's just the general state of the world. I think we're in a time of rapid change. Between now in March and the election, I think a lot of things could be changing, and what we've talked about today with cannabis reform being one of those things that could be a big part of how things change. So in closing, I just want to again thank you for sharing with me and with our listeners, and thank you to the listeners for tuning in and listening. And again, feel free to leave comments below or to let us know what you think. So that's all for today's episode, and everyone take care of yourself.
Thanks, Drew. And find me on Twitter or X, Jobhire, JOBHIGHER. And let's pass on the message to the masses that God loves them. Thank you.
Beautiful. That's all for now. Peace.
Bye.